Good morning everyone. I am Madhavi once again here to explain India relief features. In previous two classes we have learned two key concepts. One is location, the another one is geological background. The third key concept that today we are going to learn is major relief divisions. Do you remember that total 6 major relief divisions we have in India? One is Himalayas, Indo-Gangetic plains, deserts, Peninsular Plateau, coastal plains and islands. Okay, now let us learn about the Himalayas. So this is the rough map I have drawn, okay, and the relevant content I have written on these charts so that it should not look so clumsy. Okay, so when you look into the Himalayas, okay, the Himalayan ranges which are spread from west to east, but the majority of the Himalayas are found in India from northeast part of India. Okay, that means from north to east extent of India. So almost Himalayas are looking like an arc shape. Okay, and the extension of these Himalayas are around 2,400 kilometers of its extension. And as we see, Himalayas are found little wider in the north part and becoming narrow when it is moving towards east part of India. Okay, the width of Himalayas in north part of India is around 500 kilometers, and whereas when it is moving towards east part of India, it is becoming narrow till 200 kilometers. Okay, so that means the width is more in the north part of India with 500 kilometers, becoming narrow and having its extension of 200 kilometers of Himalayas. Now if you see here, the Himalayas are divided into 3 divisions based on their height. Okay, this is the first parallel line. Okay, that is the Greater Himalayas, which are in greater height, average of some 6,100 meters of its height. And these greater Himalayas are also called as Himadri. They are also called as Himadri. And the second division of Himalayas are Lesser Himalayas. Lesser Himalayas are otherwise called as Himachal. And the third division of Himalayas are Shivaliks, which are very less in height. Okay. The greater Himalayas are having the greater peaks. If you remember, Kanchenjunga, K2, Karakoram ranges, these all are part of greater Himalayas. That means part of Himadri ranges. In the same way, the lesser Himalayas, okay, that means otherwise called as Himachal ranges, their average height is around 3,700 to 4,500 meters height. And the important ranges of this Himachal, that means lesser Himalayas or Himachal ranges, are Pir Panjal ranges and Mahabharat ranges. Okay, and especially the important feature of Himachal ranges that they are very famous for the variety of hill stations. Okay, and if you see Kulu, Nainital and Shimla, these are part of Himachal ranges. Okay, and they are very famous for their hill stations. And when I am saying about Himachal and Shimla, you know what is the state that is having the capital of Shimla? Yes, that is Himachal Pradesh. So Himachal Pradesh, that state have been named after this Himachal ranges. So Shimla is also one of the very well known hill stations. Okay, like even Nainital is also one of the hill stations. And now let us talk about the third most range of Himalayas, which are very low in height, but they are again not a continuous ranges. See, like Himadri and Himachal, they are the continuous ranges. Okay, but whereas Shivaliks are broken down in between. Okay, they are not continuous ranges and their height is much lesser compared to the lesser Himalayas and greater Himalayas. And especially these Shivalik ranges are very famous for their dunes. Okay, what is the meaning of a dune? What is a dune? Dune is a very flat bottom valley found between Himachal and Shivaliks, the very flat, elongated bottom valley found between Shivaliks and the Himachal, they are called as dunes. Total we have 3 important dune. One is Dehradun. Do you know what is this Dehradun? What is its importance? Yes, Dehradun is the capital of Uttarakhand. Okay, so that means Dehradun is situated in Uttarakhand. Then Kotlidun, which is situated in Himachal Pradesh, and Patlidun. So total we have 3 dunes: Dehradun, Kotlidun, and Patlidun. Okay. Now this is all about Himalayas. When you go the extreme extension towards the eastern states of India, they have some kind of Himalayas, but they are very lesser in height and they are quite different, having a variety of features compared to Himalayas. So the set of hills which are found to the extreme extension of eastern part of India, that means among the all eastern states. Do you remember all the 7 sisters of eastern states of India? Yes, like Manipur, Mizoram, okay, Nagaland, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, so whatever the hills which are found in these eastern states, that means eastern 7 sisters of India, the hills which are very famously called as Purvachal hills. So these Purvachal hills are named with different names based on their location, like Pattai Hills, Naga Hills, Manipur Hills, Khasi Hills, and Mizo Hills. So with their name itself we can understand that these particular hills are situated there. Like see, Naga Hills is in Nagaland, Manipur Hills is in Manipur, and Khasi Hills are found in Meghalaya, and Mizo Hills are found in Mizoram, right? So this is all about Himalayas. Now let us go to the next major relief division is Indo-Gangetic Plain. Do you remember this Indo-Gangetic Plain has formed because of the silt brought down by the 2 rivers, one is Indus and river Ganga. Okay, and this Indo-Gangetic Plain was completely in valley form when the formation of fold mountains. In previous class I have explained you, right? The tectonic plates movement and folded the Himalayas, okay, keeping the foot of Himalayas completely valley and depressed land, and this valley and depressed land is completely lifted up by depositing the silt brought down by rivers of both Indus as well as river Ganga. Okay, so overall the Indus and river Ganga formed the northern plains, which is called as Indo-Gangetic Plain. Is divided into 3 divisions. Okay, one is western part of Indo-Gangetic Plain, central part, and eastern part of Indo-Gangetic Plain. The western part of northern plain is completely have its extension of river Indus. Okay, river Indus and its tributaries. Okay, how many tributaries do Indus have? There are 5 tributaries of river Indus: Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Bias, and Satluj. Okay, so before Indian partition, that means when India was not having its partition, when there was a Pakistan, so that time all the 5 tributaries of river Indus have its joined, and it was called as Punjab. You know, the present state Punjab have got its name. That is all because of the 5 tributaries of river Indus. But unfortunately, after the partition of Pakistan, now there are only 2 tributaries left over flowing in India, and that is in Punjab region, and that was called as very famously Doab, not Punjab. Now Punjab have no more 5 tributaries of flowing, but present Punjab state is having only 2 tributaries flowing in that state, which is called as Doab. Okay, so this is all about the western part of Indo-Gangetic Plain. Okay, the central part of Indo-Gangetic Plain is completely having the extension of river Ganga and its tributaries. The very famous tributaries of river Ganga like Yamuna, Ghaggar, Kosi, Betwa, Son. Okay, so there are large number of tributaries found flowing in the central part of northern plains and it's making this land very fertile and awesome land for the cultivation. Okay. Now eastern part of Indo-Gangetic plain have the influence of river Brahmaputra. Okay, that is completely towards the eastern part of India. And almost Assam is one of the state having a great alluvial deposits brought down by river Brahmaputra. Okay, brought down the silt by the river Brahmaputra and making Assam as one of the highest fertile state in the eastern part of India. Okay, so overall Punjab having a great influence of this river Indus and very fertile for the cultivation, and the central part of Indo-Gangetic plain very fertile lands found in Uttar Pradesh and the extension towards West Bengal as well as Bihar, and the eastern part of Indo-Gangetic plain, that is northern plains, having the influence of river Brahmaputra, making Assam and the nearby states fertile and good alluvial deposits. So this is all about Indo-Gangetic plain. Now I would like to say something more about the central Indo-Gangetic plain. So here the central part of Indo-Gangetic plain, again if you can divide based on the fertility of the land, it can be again divided into 3 divisions. Okay, the foot of Himalayas, absolutely to the foot of Himalayas, the silt which has been deposited over there, it is in pebble-like structure, and that part of alluvial deposits called as Bhangar. What it is called as? Bhangar. And this Bhangar deposits of alluvial part, it is in pebble-like structure. Okay, and when you go to the eastern extent, that means towards the west part of the east part of Uttar Pradesh, we can see a part of region is completely under the marshy tract. They are the wetlands, and this marshy tract, which is called as terai. What it is called as? It is called as terai. They are very good fertile soils, and the largest vegetation found in this part of the region. Okay, that means terai is completely filled with the thickest forest. Maybe nowadays because of growing of population, this whatever the thickest forest we found in this terai region are getting into deforestation, and those lands are used for the agricultural purpose. Okay, that is a different matter, but these are the whatever the marshy tract we find in this central Indo-Gangetic plain, this is called as terai. Now as you see the alluvial deposits, the pebble-like structure deposited in the foot of Himalayas, which is called as Bhangar, the over alluvial deposits are extended further towards the eastern side, and the alluvial deposits found in the Bihar and West Bengal, which are very fine in its structure, and they are called as Khadar. Okay, that means here the alluvial deposits, the old alluvial deposits in pebble-like structure called as Bhangar, and the finer alluvial deposits, and they are new alluvial deposits called as Khadar. So now if you say what are the differences between Bhangar and Khadar, Bhangar is the old alluvial deposits, Khadar is the new alluvial deposits. Bhangar have the pebble-like structure deposits. Khadar are very fine in its structure. Bhangar, as they are old alluvial deposits, they are less fertile, and whereas Khadar, the new alluvial deposits, they are very highly fertile compared to Bhangar. Okay, so this is all about Indo-Gangetic plain. Now let us coming into the peninsular plateau. Okay, so I'll just draw over here a line. This is river Narmada. This is river Narmada. Above river Narmada, whatever the plateau region we are seeing, that is called as Malwa Plateau, and down of river Narmada, this plateau is called as Deccan Plateau. Yes, the total peninsular plateau is divided into two. Above Narmada river called as Malwa Plateau, and south part of river Narmada called as Deccan Plateau. Okay, Malwa Plateau. Malwa Plateau is also called as Central Highlands. Malwa Plateau is also called as Central Highlands. And what are the boundaries of this Malwa Plateau? If you see to the western part of extent of Malwa Plateau is covered with Aravalli ranges. What are the boundaries? The western boundaries of Malwa Plateau is Aravalli ranges, and south part of Malwa Plateau Vindhya ranges, and this Vindhya ranges have its extension till Chota Nagpur Plateau. Okay, so overall Malwa Plateau have its boundaries towards western side covered with Aravalli ranges. From there, Malwa Plateau, the southern part is Vindhya ranges, and this Vindhya ranges have its extension till Chota Nagpur Plateau. So you can see Vindhya ranges, Bundelkhand and Chota Nagpur Plateau. So this is how the extension of Malwa Plateau above Narmada River. Now I have said south part of Narmada River is Deccan Plateau. Now let us see the Deccan Plateau and its extension. Okay, Deccan Plateau have the complete Satpura ranges here, and these Satpura ranges have its continuation with Mahadev Hills, then Maikal and Kaimur Hills. Okay, so what is the boundaries? The north boundary of Deccan Plateau is Satpura ranges, Mahadev Hills, Maikal and Kaimur Hills. Okay, and west boundary and the east boundary of Deccan Plateau is Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. Western Ghats have it's completely extended to the parallel to the west coastal plain, and whereas Eastern Ghats have completely extended to the parallel to the eastern coastal plain. If you see the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats, Western Ghats are very continuous ranges, okay, but whereas Eastern Ghats have so many gaps in between. And why this much of gap we can see in the Eastern Ghats? Because here we can see two important rivers. One is river Godavari and river Krishna. So because of river Godavari and Krishna and forming the deltaic part over here, we can see there is a long gap found between the Eastern Ghats. And yes, Eastern Ghats are not continuous ranges just like Western Ghats. Okay, and if you see the Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats, Western Ghats seems to be very height compared to Eastern Ghats. As Western Ghats are having a great elevation, most of the rivers have its origin and they are moving towards eastern part, and they are joining the Bay of Bengal. See, like not only Godavari and Krishna, there are Tungabhadra, Kaveri. These are the rivers. That means in peninsular India, that means in Deccan Plateau, in south part of India, all the rivers have its origin from the Western Ghats. And obviously, because this is having the highest elevation, the slope is towards eastern side, all the rivers will be seems to be flowing towards the eastern side. That means from west to east flowing rivers and joining finally to Bay of Bengal. Okay, and they are very greater in height. And let us see some of the important hills which are found in Western Ghats. Okay, the Western Ghats, one of the important hill ranges we find is Nilgiri Hills. And in this Nilgiri Hills, the highest peak of the Nilgiri Hills is Dodabeta, is one of the hill station, very famous hill station. And completely in southern part of India, the highest peak found in Annaimudi. Annaimudi are the hills which are found in south part of India, and this is the highest peak which are situated in Kerala. Okay, Annaimudi is the highest peak in south part of India, which is found in Kerala. And other important ranges is like Cardamom Hills, which is also found in south part of India. Okay, Nilgiri Hills are found somewhere in the Karnataka region and extended to Kerala. Okay, and the highest peak in Nilgiri Hills is Dodabeta, and the hills which are found in Kerala and in that Annaimudi is the highest peak which is found. The highest peak in South India itself. Okay, and the other hills are Karaman hills. Now let us see the Eastern Ghats. In Eastern Ghats there are so many hills or hill ranges are found. Okay, though they are not very continuous, but they are having their own importance. Like see Nalamala hills, which are found in Telangana region. Okay, Nilgiri hills are completely found in the south part of Eastern Ghats, and Vellikonda, Palakonda, Seshachalam hills. These are the different hills, the important hills part of Eastern Ghats. Okay, so by this we have completed Himalayas, Indo-Gangetic Plain and Peninsular Plain. Now let us look into the Thar Desert. Okay, as previously we have discussed that deserts which are situated in Rajasthan are completely dry and they have completely filled with lot of sand dunes. Okay, so why these deserts, that means why this part of region is found or converted into desert region. Okay, and actually this is formed because of the rain shadowed region of Aravalli ranges. Okay, let us see over here. I have drawn a very rough figure of this deserts, that means Aravalli ranges. Are you seeing these are the ranges? Okay, just assume these are the Aravalli ranges. Okay, the Aravalli ranges, whatever the winds are blowing from south part of India, this part of Aravalli ranges are receiving the rainfall, and this part of Aravalli ranges are called as windward side. And the another side of Aravalli ranges which are not receiving any winds, and it is making as a shadow part, and it is leeward side. Okay, so because of this leeward side they are not receiving the winds. Okay, only one side of Aravalli ranges are receiving winds and receiving the better rainfall, making the another side of Aravalli ranges as rain shadowed region because of its leeward side, making that particular land converted into deserts. Did you understand? Aravalli ranges, this side is windward direction and that side is leeward direction. That is the reason the another side of Aravalli ranges, the total land has been converted into deserty region. Okay, this is all about Rajasthan, and we know very well Rajasthan is completely filled with lot of sandy dunes which are called as barchans. Okay, and the important river we find in this Rajasthan is Luni river. This is only the river we find in Rajasthan. Okay, though the water content in this river is very less, but this is only the river which is found for most of the year, though the climatical conditions are too hot. Okay, and here we can see the rainfall percentages are very less. It receives around 100 to 150 millimeters of rainfall per annum. So this is all about Rajasthan, and Rajasthan, because of its dryness, the land have converted into sand, and you know, during daytime the temperatures are extreme hot, and during nights the sands will lose its temperature and they become extreme cold. That means daytime the temperatures found very hot, and during nights because of sand the temperatures mostly fall down. That means completely falls down, and the people experience very cold during nights. Okay, so this is all about Thar Desert. Okay, now two more relief features. One is about the coastal plains and islands. Now let us see about the coastal plains. The coastal plain of Maharashtra state. Okay, this is Maharashtra, Goa, Karnataka, Kerala. Okay, these are the peninsular western states. Okay, whatever the coastal plain we see to the coast of Maharashtra, they are called as Konkan coast. Okay, the coastal part which is found covering to the coastal region of Maharashtra and Goa, that coastal region is called as Konkan coast. Okay, the coastal part of Karnataka. Okay, it is called as Kannara coast. Okay, the coastal region of Kerala till south part of India. This is Malabar coast. Okay, so the coastal part of Maharashtra and Goa called as Konkan coast. Coastal plain, whatever the coastal plain we find to Karnataka state Kannara coast, and whatever the coastal plain we see of Kerala till south tip of India is Malabar coast. Now if you see the eastern coastal plain, okay, have its extension overall, they have named with different names, okay, especially Andhra Pradesh, whatever the coastal line we see, that is called as Coromandel coast, okay, and above that it is called as Northern Circus, or you can call it as Circus, okay, and as you go to the extension of this eastern coastal plain, it is also called as Utkal coast. So I have given names over here. The coastal plains are towards the western coastal plain, Konkan, Kannara and Malabar coast, okay, and towards the eastern coastal plain, it is called with different names: Coromandel coast, Utkal coast and Sirkar coast. Okay, so this is all about the coastal plain, and coastal plains are very fertile soils. These coastal plains are very fertile soils because of high deposits of alluvial. Especially eastern coastal plain is very famous for its high cultivation possibilities, because we can see large number of deltaic regions towards the eastern coastal plain. And you know, in the eastern coastal plain we can see lakes formed, okay. The lake which is formed to the eastern coastal plain in Odisha region is Chilka Lake, and two lakes we find to the Andhra Pradesh coastal region. One is Kolleru Lake and the south part of Andhra Pradesh, one more lake which is called as Pulicat Lake, okay, Pulicat Lake, okay, the lake which is found in Odisha region called as Chilka, and this is saltish. We can see that lake is with lot of salinity. Kolleru Lake is called as one of the freshwater lake in South India. And again, Pulicat Lake also found in Andhra Pradesh, the south part of Andhra Pradesh, which is again with lot of salinity because of the backwater from Bay of Bengal. So this is all about the coastal plains. Now let us look into Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. So total island groups are divided into two divisions. Whatever the island groups we find in Bay of Bengal called as Andaman and Nicobar Islands. The north part of islands which are found in Bay of Bengal called as Andaman, and as it is going its extension towards the south called as Nicobar Islands. And the group of islands which are found in Arabian Sea, they are called as Lakshadweep Islands. Let us have a look into the two different types of islands. Okay, so here Andaman and Nicobar Islands, and especially Andaman and Nicobar Islands, whatever the group of islands we can say, especially like Narkodam and Barren Islands, these islands are having a volcanic origin. That means most of the islands which are found in Bay of Bengal, they have been formed because of the volcanic origin. Okay, and as geologists says that whatever the island groups are found in Bay of Bengal, that may be the extension of Himalayan ranges which have completely submerged in Bay of Bengal Sea. And one more important feature of Andaman and Nicobar Island is that Indra Point. There was the Indra Point, a small which was the part of Andaman Nicobar Island, which was called as Indra Point. This part of Andaman Nicobar Island has been submerged away in Bay of Bengal in 2004 when there was a tsunami. Okay, so in 2004, because of the start of the tsunami, Indira Pond was part of Andaman Nicobar Island, which has been submerged away. Okay, that is again part of Nicobar. Okay, and now let us talk about Lakshadweep, which is situated in Arabian Sea. Okay, Lakshadweep, and the total extension, the total area of Lakshadweep is 32 square kilometers. Are you seeing the 32 square kilometers? The one of the important feature of this Lakshadweep is it have the origin of corals. Okay, we can see large number of coral reefs. What is the meaning of coral reefs? So a kind of organisms developed on the skeleton of leftover particles in these islands. See the skeletons of maybe fishes or other kind of an animals. So whatever the organisms will survive on the skeletons of the other animals, and they survive by developing in the form of structure and forms the organisms, they are called as coral reefs. And you know, these coral reefs are kind of amoeba structure. Okay, and these coral reefs will also be used as one of the like show pieces, like a decorative piece in our houses. Okay, so that is all about the coral reefs. Coral reefs are nothing but they are the organisms which survive on the other skeletal part found in this island group. So this is all about the 6 major reef divisions. When we are talking about each and every major reef division, each and every reef division is having their own feature and making an extensive vegetation. Okay, so that is what the geological location of India. As earlier we have discussed, the way of the geological location of India is found, which is quite suitable to have varied relief divisions. Because of this, varied relief divisions are supporting to have, which is providing the variety and varied vegetation found in India. So this is all about the lesson. So I hope you have understood the topic. Thank you.